Aw, come closer, sweetheart. Let me tell you a story the way a grandma would, slow, warm, and full of heart. Back in my day, the kitchen was the heart of the home. Not quiet, oh no, it was always alive. Pots would simmer gently on the stove, the oven would hum like it was singing, and the air was always filled with something delicious. Sometimes it smelled like cinnamon, sometimes butter, and sometimes a rich stew that made your stomach rumble before you even sat down. We didn't have fancy things, no expensive gadgets, no complicated recipes, but we had something better. We had time, love, and each other. And I made sure no one, and I mean no one, ever left my house hungry. Now, let me tell you about my cookie jar. It wasn't just a jar, it was magic. Some days I didn't have the time or patience to bake for hours. That's when I'd whip up my famous quick cookies. A little butter, sugar, peanut butter, and those crunchy cornflakes. Oh, the sound they made. Crunchy on the outside, soft and sweet on the inside. The children would come running after school, dropping their bags, eyes wide. "Grandma, did you make cookies?" And I'd smile, pretending to think, well, I might have. Summers were something special. The sun stayed longer, the breeze felt softer, and berries, the berries were perfect, plump, sweet, bursting with flavor. That's when I'd make my pies. Rolling out the dough carefully, just like my mother taught me, filling it with fresh fruit and baking it until the crust turned golden and flaky. When I placed that pie on the table, the whole family would gather without being called, because some smells, they bring people home. Now listen closely, child. This part matters. There were times when money was tight, real tight, but I never let that stop me. I'd take simple things, ground meat, a few vegetables, some spices, and turn them into a warm, hearty meal, a stew that could feed everyone, maybe even the neighbor who just happened to stop by. We didn't waste anything. Leftovers weren't leftovers. They were tomorrow's magic. And somehow, even with so little, it always felt like enough. Oh, and don't get me started on my salads. You see, my idea of a salad wasn't just greens. No, mine had cherries, marshmallows, creamy goodness, sweet, fluffy, and full of joy. The children loved it. The adults pretended it was for the kids, but they always came back for seconds. That's the thing about food, darling. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to make you smile. Sunday was special. That's when I made my sauce. Slow, patient, hours on the stove. Tomatoes, garlic, herbs, all coming together like an orchestra. You couldn't rush it. Good things never like to be rushed. By the time it was ready, the whole house smelled like comfort, like family, like something worth sitting down for. And when we finally ate together, well, those were the moments that mattered most. Now, here's a secret only grandmas really understand. Cooking isn't just recipes. It's about knowing. A splash of something here, a pinch of something there. A little leftover water to make sauce just right, a spoon of something unexpected to deepen the flavor, a clever trick to make things softer, richer, better. We didn't call it technique, we just called it experience. As the years passed, things changed. Fast food came, shortcuts became normal, and those slow, careful recipes, well, they started to fade. But listen to me, those dishes weren't just food. They were laughter at the dinner table, warm plates on cold nights, hands reaching for seconds, stories shared between bites. They were love you could taste. So, if you ever find yourself in a quiet kitchen, take your time. Bake something simple. Stir something slowly. Don't rush it. And when someone takes a bite and smiles, you'll understand. Because being a grandma in the kitchen was never about being perfect. It was about making people feel at home. Now tell me, sweetheart, which dish would you have run to my kitchen for first? Every home has a magic hour, but ours came just before sunset. The light would pour through the windows like warm honey, and that's when I'd hear it, the soft clink of bowls and the gentle hum of your grandma in the kitchen. Don't just stand there. Come learn something worth remembering. On the counter, spice cookies. Not perfect, not polished, but full of life. Cinnamon, nutmeg, and a warmth that wrapped around your heart before you even took a bite. You'd sit with a cup of cocoa, and just like that, the world slowed down. Life doesn't need to be fancy, just honest, she'd say. Now Christmas, that was her season. She'd stand by the stove, eyes sharp as ever, making peanut brittle, sugar bubbling like it had a mind of its own. Listen closely, she'd whisper, and then snap, that crisp, perfect break, the sound of success. Folks nowadays rush everything, but your grandma, she knew that some things, good things, take time. Not every day called for celebration. Some days were quiet, and those were my favorite. She'd make milk pudding, just milk, sugar, and vanilla. You'd think it'd be plain, but it wasn't. She'd sprinkle nutmeg on top, maybe add a soft cloud of cream. There now, she'd smile. That's comfort in a bowl, and you believed her. There was a rhythm to her bread making. Irish soda bread, no yeast, no waiting, just hands that knew exactly what they were doing. Before baking, she'd carve a cross right on top. "Why do you do that?" I once asked. She paused, then said, "For blessing, and for those who came before us." When it came out of the oven, golden and crackling, it felt like more than bread. It felt like history. Summers were loud, sticky, and full of laughter, and right in the middle of it all, peach cobbler, juicy peaches bubbling beneath a golden crust. She'd serve it warm, always with a scoop of ice cream melting into the corners. "That's how you balance life," she'd say. "A little hot, a little cold, a little sweet, a little tart." And somehow she was never wrong. Come fall, everything smelled like apples and cinnamon. Her apple pie wasn't just dessert, it was an event. That lattice crust, woven with care, the apples just the right mix of sweet and tart. People today might grab a pie from a drive-thru, but I'll tell you something true. No store-bought pie ever held a family together the way hers did. Now this is where the magic lived. A spoonful of mayonnaise and scrambled eggs made them soft as clouds. Sugar in the pan instead of flour gave cakes a golden caramel edge. A splash of pasta water turned sauces silky smooth. And bananas never wasted. She whipped them into something light and sweet with egg whites. "Don't waste what you've been given," she'd say. "That's where real cooking begins." Right there by the stove sat a little jar. Bacon grease, saved carefully, used wisely. A spoonful could turn plain green beans into something rich and smoky, something that made even stubborn kids ask for seconds. Nowadays, folks reach for olive oil, but back then, that jar was flavor, that jar was survival. One evening, when the kitchen had finally gone quiet, I asked her, "Grandma, why does your food taste different?" She looked at me, really looked, and smiled. "It's not the food, honey," she said gently. "It's the care. It's the time. It's knowing who you're feeding and loving them while you do it." Years passed. The world got faster, easier, louder. People stopped saving, stopped waiting, stopped passing things down. But every now and then you catch a smell, cinnamon, sugar, something warm. And just like that, you're back in that kitchen. The light is golden, the cookies are warm, and your grandma's right there, smiling like she never left. "Come here," she says softly. "There's still something worth learning." "All right, sweetheart, let me gently take you back to my kitchen one last time." And if this story made you feel even a little bit of that warmth, that smell of something baking, that memory of family gathered around the table, then listen closely to your grandma for a moment, because stories like these, they only stay alive when we share them. So if this touched your heart today, give this story a like so more people can feel this warmth too. Share it with someone you love. Share it with someone you love, maybe someone who misses their grandma's cooking. And subscribe so you don't miss the next cozy trip back to memories that feel like home.